The man chosen to oversee the new $20 billion compensation fund promised today to pay all legitimate claims quickly in 30 to 60 days. That man is Kenneth Feinberg, who's visiting the Gulf Coast and joins us now from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Mr. Feinberg, as we just said, only a fraction of the claims submitted thus far by Gulf residents have been paid by BP. Why the logjam in your view?
I think the logjam is that this is a rather unprecedented situation involving thousands of would-be eligible claimants. The president has made it very clear to me he wants those claims paid quicker, in an accelerated fashion, with less red tape, and that's why I'm down in the Gulf today to meet with Governor Barber and now Governor Jindal to talk about how to speed up that process.
Will BP have any jurisdiction over which claims are actually paid out, or will that company just hand over the money?
That company has no say on the claims that I declare to be legitimate and eligible.
I guess the key words are legitimate claims. After Hurricane Katrina, as you know, there were thousands of alleged cases of fraud or overbilling during the claims process. How will you be able to safeguard against that?
Fraud is an enemy of this program. We must make sure that every claim that's filed is legitimate, that it is eligible, that it will be considered on its own merits. They won't all be paid. They will not all be paid.
Will $20 billion be sufficient to cover the losses Gulf residents will suffer?
No one knows for sure yet, but the president made clear, and as I understand it, BP went along, that if $20 billion is not enough, there will be additional funds provided.
You've said this escrow fund will expedite the process, but does it also shield BP from lawsuits?
Not at all. First of all, anybody who doesn't want to come into the fund doesn't have to. There will be individuals, there will be businesses, there will be lawyers who will prefer to litigate rather than come into this fund. I would urge every claimant in the Gulf, regardless of whether it's a small business, large business, individual, I would urge everybody to come into this fund. It will not require that you pay 30 or 40% of your award to your lawyer, and you'll get the money a lot quicker.
The administration says this process will be transparent. How so? Will all payments and claims be made public? Will there be a website to account for how the $20 billion has been paid out?
I am sure there will be a website and transparency as to how this money has been spent. I think we have to strike a balance between the public's right to know and the privacy rights of the individual claimants. I don't want individuals or small businesses to be chilled from filing a claim, fearing that what they receive will be on the internet or will be made public the next day. That will defeat the purpose of the program.
BP has promised to pay for the cleanup, said there will be no cap on liability. In fact, you said they could go above and beyond the $20 billion. But what if BP goes bankrupt?
That would be a horror. A horror. If BP goes bankrupt, the bankruptcy lawyers will reap the benefit, I can tell you that. But the idea that BP will no longer be available to pay legitimate claims would be, I think, a tragedy. This program will not simply be an open run on the BP treasury.
Ken Feinberg, I know it's very hot down there in Baton Rouge. Thanks so much for taking some time out to talk with us.
Thanks, Katie. Thanks very much.
I don't envy you your job because I've been watching, I talked to a number of correspondents this week about what sort of stories they're hearing and the people that you might be dealing with. So there's the real estate agent who had 6 deals go belly up on him. There's the fisherman who just bought a boat. There are people whose homes have lost value, not even anywhere near oil. How many of those people can you please?
Well, you hope that you can please everybody in one sense, that the program is fair, it's quick, it's consistent. You know, the claims are as diverse as human nature, and I'll have to look at each claim, can't prejudge anything, see the facts, observe the facts. Governor Riley in Alabama, I met with him about a week ago, and he looked at me and he said, "Look me in the eye, Ken, and tell me, are you going to do right by the people of Alabama?" And I told him, absolutely, and I intend to.
So when you are looking at all of this, I know this is sort of a basic question. Do you have a staff, or are you superimposing over the BP people that are working?
The latter. BP, to its credit, I mean, they have over 1,000 people working in the Gulf now on claims, 35 different offices. Within the next couple of weeks, I would say certainly by the first week of August, the Gulf Coast Claims Facility will replace BP, we'll keep the people who are good, we'll add people, we'll accelerate claims, we'll process the claims as quickly as we can. We're already prepared to give eligible claimants not 1 month emergency payments, but 6 months with no obligation, no release required, just to try and help people in the Gulf.
And that also will cut down on the lines, I think, rather than coming back every month. So
That's
you're prepared
correct.
to give half a year's compensation to people so they can kind of count on their lives at least being stable for those next 6 months.
That's right. Some degree of additional financial certainty. I work for the people in the Gulf. I don't work for the administration. I don't work for BP. And I've got to find a way to accelerate claims. I can't help people if they don't file. Once they file, we'll process the claim. If they're eligible, we'll give them up to 6 months emergency comp, their choice. They don't have to take 6 months, but 6 months emergency comp without any release of any type.
And interesting, we were talking during the break, you find that people are not as, let's all line up and get some money.
Oh no. One of the big challenges is convincing people to file a claim. Mr. Feinberg, I only get paid in cash. I'm afraid to file a claim. Are you going to be sending all of my information that I provide you to the IRS? I mean, I'm not sure about what are your intentions. No. This is not easy to convince people that some new program will help them. It takes some work.
And at the same time, this is a lot different from the other things here, the Virginia Tech victims, 9/11, because there were a controlled group of people. This is massive, and it's an ongoing disaster. And I wonder if the worry about fraud is a lot higher in this case.
Well, we only had, out of 7,300 applications in 9/11, we only had 35 examples of fraud. We've got to create, as part of the program that I'm establishing, an anti-fraud provision or an anti-fraud protection. We're getting tremendous cooperation from the Department of Justice, which will help us. We'll make sure nothing can undercut the credibility of this program more than fraud. And we'll take every step we can to minimize the likelihood of fraudulent applications and payments.
And in our final minutes, tell me how you found people down there. Are they receptive to you? Do they feel as though they are going to get a fair shake? Or what are those meetings like?
Every meeting is different. I spent one day in Louisiana going around with Senator Landrieu at various town hall meetings. I've been to Alabama, Mississippi, Florida. Tomorrow, back in Florida, tomorrow morning. People are uncertain. They're worried about their financial certainty. It sure would help, Candy, if the oil stopped. That's one problem I've got. But they're worried, they're angry, they're disappointed, they're frustrated. As diverse as imaginable, but we're trying to deal with it by going and meeting with them. You've got to walk into the lion's den. You've got to be prepared to take the heat, which I am. It's part of the territory. But I'm confident, as with the other programs I've designed, if I have a chance to meet with people, give them assurance that we're going to be fair in our consideration of every application, please file your claim. We will do right by you.
And you have been there enough, I think, probably to gather a sense of economically what we're talking about here. Is $20 billion going to be enough?
We'll see. That I can't answer. And the main reason I can't answer that yet is I haven't seen all the applications. Until the oil stops, you don't know how pervasive the oil spill will be. So you don't know if somebody who has not been harmed at all today will be harmed by additional oil next week. Once the oil stops, I believe we'll be able very quickly to get sort of a handle on the comprehensiveness of the claims population.